Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Coffee with Innovate Finance, our podcast series where we speak with leaders across the industry to look at the future of financial services and fintech. Our podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Podcasts. I'm Janine Hirt. I'm the CEO of Innovate Finance, and I'm so excited to have with me today a really special guest, Charles McManus, CEO at ClearBank. Charles, today you'll be telling us a little bit about ClearBank's mission, your innovative products, and the impact that you are making on the industry. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, absolute pleasure. A big fan of Innovate Finance. Delighted to be here, Janine. So looking forward to a chat.
Wow, fantastic. And we're a big fan of yours. I mean, let's start really actually in delving into ClearBank. And I think most of the listeners actually will be aware of the business model and some of your mission. But for those that aren't, I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about the company's mission in your own words. And what is it that really sets you apart from others in the sector?
So I love it. So there's lots of one-liners and straplines. I think one of the best ones is a bank born in the cloud to liberate financial services. So there's one. But we are a B2B player. So we don't go B2C. That was very deliberate. Often being called the bank for banks. But of course, we do EMIs, credit unions, banks, building societies, all the rest. And it's all about payment facilitation and clearing. And there are four things, essentially, the second part of your question, that I think we've built the bank on. First off, a unique business model. So we do a lot of things that banks don't do, as I'll come to in a moment. And all of us, or a lot of the senior management, have all worked in banks, and it's so refreshing to actually not lend money, for example, but actually do more exciting, innovative things that I'll come to in a moment. So firstly, unique business model. Second, as I said, we don't lend money. All our customers' cash, those banks, building societies, all the cash they give us for payments are all held pound for pound at the Bank of England. And so our balance sheet asset side is just full of now over 6 billion of cash. And if everyone comes and empties their bank account at the same time, all the cash is sitting there on demand. And the third thing is technology, which we'll talk about. It's all about the tech. We talk ourselves about we're a tech company with a banking license, not a bank that wants to become a fintech. And anyone who understands culture will know that difference. And the last thing, of course, whilst you've got obsession with the customer, to us, it's about building the right products for our customer and meeting those customer needs. And as we'll talk about, back to innovation and things like embedded banking and the rest. So those are the four things that I think, but we've had an amazing journey, essentially from, 7 or 8 of us at the beginning now up to 722 employees today.
I mean, that's amazing. And actually, I would love to delve into that journey, both from your own personal perspective, your career journey, what brought you to lead ClearBank, and also what it's been like taking your organization from a small player to really just one of the most powerful and most influential fintechs.
Yeah, it's a great question. And well, a little bit about me. So I mentioned banking earlier on. I grew up in the merchant banks at Hambros through a very exciting time until one Nick Leeson sort of blew up Bearings. Where I remember sitting at the court of the Bank of England when the lifeboat was launched, and of course Ing paid £1 to buy Bearings after Nick had lost 683 million in Singapore. We sold our fixed income business from Hambros to Royal Bank of Canada. The investment bank, I went with that and did 13 years in lots of C-suite roles around the world, looking after Europe and Asia, New York, and then coming back to the UK. And I was headhunted there, always up for a challenge. I was Stephen Hester and Bruce Van Saan on the RBS recovery. I ended up going to Ireland to help clean up the Ulster Bank mess. Or it was going to be non-core. But anyway, they took me into Ireland, and I had a very interesting couple of years there, which, of course, included the infamous RBS systems failure of 300 systems that went bang overnight. And then that new world, new set of words in relation to regulators of operational resiliency. And we had some of our SME clients were going 10 days not knowing what their bank balance was and then going bust. And of course, that can never be allowed to happen again. But I had a very interesting couple of years in Ireland, as well as writing off 10 billion of bad debt. That, of course, all the Republic of Ireland bankers have got paid significant bonuses for lending in the first place. So learned an awful lot. I came back, I'd got various property assets in Ireland, and I'd, for the second time, semi-retired until I had one lunch with one Nick Ogden, who founded WorldPay and Cash Flows and had the original idea of setting up a new clearing bank. And I listened to the idea and thought it was amazing. I did some DD on the business plan. We then found the two billionaires essentially to give us the 12.5 million each. And we had 25 million essentially to go and connect the tech stack to the payment schemes and get a banking license. And the rest is sort of history. I remember saying at the time to my wife, well, I'll do it for 2 years and see what happens. And of course, we're 7 years in, and
always the way.
I can't leave it alone because the opportunity now has just got bigger and bigger than when we started. So I'm really privileged to having been involved from the start and lead the team and service some of the amazing customers that we look after. But as you can tell, I'm sort of passionate about what we do and the business, and the opportunity is still so immense. So again, that's given me tremendous energy to want to go on and do a lot more.
Well, so let's talk about this going on and doing a lot more, because I think in many ways, ClearBank is really known for revolutionizing payment clearing. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the insights you have into the innovative solutions that both ClearBank offers in the space, but how you're supporting and unlocking innovation more broadly in financial services too. And potentially, yes, what innovations do you see coming in the future as well?
Well, it's so important. One of the ethoses we had, and we haven't always held up to it, but is not just doing things faster, better, cheaper, right? It's the T word in relation to transformation, doing it differently. Can we work with a partner to actually transform? And we've had some great examples of that on the journey. In particular, for example, the UK housing market, where we're working with a partner to essentially take out what I call the whole Friday-itis of buying a house, essentially remortgaging, all of that. We're working with a partner at the moment where essentially the whole chain will be done real time of all the payments and take all the stress out of one of the most stressful things in life of actually buying a house. But we're also doing the same in the rental market. Again, can we transform that whole experience, essentially, which is so key at the moment, as so many people can't afford to buy their own houses. There are numerous examples of the credit union space working within Quito. I remember back in COVID, essentially getting letters from some of the NHS credit union and the Armed Forces credit union that actually, through digital payments, it had transformed their lives, knowing when they get their cash and they can either fill up the car or go to Tesco's for the weekly shop. That is so powerful to our employees in relation to actually what we do, changing end consumers or SME lives. So if you like, that's looking back. And of course, there's been a lot of change in the payment schemes, CHAPS upgrading, and that continues. But I think we'll talk about it a bit more in the whole new world of digital clearing, and whether it's tokenized deposits or stable coins or CDCs and all of that, of more efficient, faster, taking out the friction, the cost, all of that. There's still an almighty amount that the ClearBank wants to play its part in relation to all of those changes. And you note I haven't talked about crypto once there. I'm talking about more efficient clearing. Of course, that's a whole nother story in its space where we do fiat on-off in relation to digital currencies. But actually, I'm talking about the hardcore in relation to payments and clearing throughout not just the UK and Europe, but the US and globally. So lots of opportunity.
And Charles, one area which I know you're very passionate about is looking at the ESG agenda and that wider positive impact. And you've mentioned there some really core examples of how you specifically as a firm are making that positive impact on individuals and businesses. How does ClearBank really integrate ESG factors into its operations and decision making? And are there any other specific initiatives that you've undertaken to contribute to sustainability or to social responsibility within the industry?
Yeah, a lot there and a big agenda and such an important one, not just for us as a company in relation to socially and employees, but also our customers and community and where we operate. It's so important, so important in relation, particularly where we're attracting young talent and the passions run very high in this space in relation to it. Anyway, sustainability, absolute governing principle to us. It's embedded in our risk appetite. It's embedded in our risk asset framework. We've got all the measures and targets. Always what gets measured gets done. Really important. And that's also, it's incorporated in our commercial strategy in relation to negotiations with clients. And all the sustainability service levels around that. So that sustainability, we've done a lot in the last year of bringing on more resources, looking at all of the particular aspects and also champions, but actually it's about the whole bank living it, not just having a champion in the corner that, ESG goes to that individual or whatever it is. The environment, let me talk about that for a moment. So we appointed and worked with a firm called Normative that are very strong in the space. They've helped us actually over the last year or so document on the carbon side, all the environmental measures, and they've helped us build our net zero project to 2030. But it's not just obviously the carbon aspect that everyone focuses on and net zero. There's so much more. So, for example, ClearBank, we were one of the original members that signed up. We're tied, in fact, for Bankers for Net Zero. What are Bankers for Net Zero? Well, they're very SME focused, and they're focused on the whole aspect of improving green financing to SMEs, which is absolutely critical in relation to the importance of those, the 6 million to the UK, but also helping SMEs decarbonise. And all the initiatives there. And Bankers for Net Zero is a great organisation. I've done an awful lot of work there. And then moving on to social, really proud. Just recently, the bank voted on its long-term charity partner. Very strong competition in relation to all sorts. And the bank chose CALM, CALM. For those of you who don't know CALM, it's the campaign against living miserably. Sounds awful, but of course the reality in life. And they do a lot of fantastic work in the suicide prevention space. And of course the importance of mental health. So we're really pleased to essentially have made that appointment and partnership. And another one, I'll mention a few others. One that I'm quite passionate about as well is Code First for Girls. And we've taken some amazing talent. This is an organisation working with young women to try and get young women into technology. And we've hired some amazing talent. And again, we're seeing the benefits of all of that, but we're working with that organisation much more broadly in relation to female and young talents. So exciting because obviously science, technology, not a natural space, essentially for girls. And then, of course, with clients, I could go on, but I'll stop. I've mentioned in QT, but there's a number of other clients that we're actually working with and partnerships where they're doing some amazing work in the technology space in relation to not just sort of social environment, but again, sustainability in relation to green projects and all of those. So I will stop there, but there's a number of things that are going on in ClearBank in ESG.
Incredibly interesting, and particularly along some of the initiatives and the partnerships you mentioned there. I'm curious, how does ClearBank communicate these types of efforts around ESG to your stakeholders? And are there any plans for comprehensive ESG reporting in the future?
Yeah, so I think, you can look at our annual report and accounts, and that's one thing, and actually it's going to improve in another. But when I talked about living and breathing it, essentially, of course, we have a weekly stand-up with all the staff. We have a dimensions group and other that are constantly presenting in relation and celebrating not just the ESG agenda, but the DE&I agenda in relation to diversity and all of those things. So we live it through the bank sort of every week, and websites and the rest on a formal governance basis. And obviously the regulators are looking much more closely at this, shareholders, customers, investors. Then yes, we've started to build all our formal reporting on those targets, measurements to boards, etc. And we'll do more public aspects. But one aspect I'm quite keen on, of bringing it all together, and all right, another play on the word of clear, but we're going to produce our 2024 Clear Impact report that will pull all of this together. And I think that will be something that hopefully we'll be proud of in relation to actually seeing our progress against all our targets and the rest. So yes, transparency on all this and measurement rather than just talking it, so important.
and one for all of us to look out for in terms of the report as well. So very much looking forward to that, Charles. Let's change tack now and focus on profitability. Because first of all, let's chat about your achievement in profitability this year. A huge congratulations. You've managed to maintain and sustain an unbelievable level of growth and reach profitability. I'd love to hear from you what some of the key drivers and the strategies are that contributed to this, and any learnings or lessons learned along the journey as well.
Yeah, so important in relation to sustainability in the current environment. Where obviously funding for fintechs and all of that is and has been so much tighter, and the whole re-evaluation in relation to valuations and essentially investor returns. So we were fortunate, if you like, whether it's my accountancy background and CFO training, is right from day one. We never, I would say it's a trap, but if you look at the digital banks in relation to more the consumer aspects, we never were going after market share or customer acquisition, regardless of profitability. So we've never actually, from day one, written any business at a loss in relation to gross margin as being fundamental in the business. So for every faster payment that we charge for, we've never priced to win volume in relation to loss leading in any way. And obviously the big four banks in relation to cross-subsidizing products, we haven't had that luxury in terms of sort of either the loans or M&A activity and pricing quality. So we've had to deliver quality in our product that stands up for it in terms of true commercials. And that has been fundamental. It means that occasionally we've lost business in terms of sort of either price, or indeed on a risk appetite basis, business sustainability, we've actually said no to clients that actually we want to onboard because we wanted to build that long-term relationships. And obviously in relation to financial crime, fraud, all of that, such a big agenda, and things change so fast, we've got to protect our reputation in relation to it. So the core fundamentals in relation to margin, always setting our sights of one day we would get to profitability. We always knew we'd built the right tech stack, which had all the right operating leverage in it as well. We can put a lot more through, and essentially sort of the margin will drop to the bottom line and we actually get to profitability. And in fact, that's what's happened. And that's underpinned us essentially to reinvest more in new products, more people, and as we'll talk about in a moment, if you like, more geographies, and actually building from a position of strength. So I think the lessons learned are nothing, I'd say, extraordinary or special. It's back to ruthless focus and unit economics and actually attacking those markets where you've got an addressable market, you can grow into it. Customers want the product that you build, and the economics of the business are thoroughly understood in terms of scaling. So if you like an economic CFO type answer, but actually it's the truth of how we got there.
It's quite inspiring, Charles. And I know that we've spoken a lot, and it's a theme that comes out a lot in these conversations on our podcast, is this idea of collaborative efforts as well. Are there any examples that you're keen to share about some of those collaborative ventures with partners that have really contributed to your revenue growth and your overall success?
Yes. Well, we use partners in lots of different ways, and obviously in relation to sort of customers. But as people understand our business, we do agency banking for all those regulated FIs, but we also invented embedded banking, where essentially we're allowing our EMI customers or others to essentially behave like a bank and offer bank accounts to their customers. And obviously Tide was the first one that we did that, and they've had tremendous success. They're now at over 10%, 550,000 UK SMEs basically get all the services from Tide, but access a ClearBank bank account, FSCS protected through the Tide app and our platform. We've gone on from Tide to a number of others. Chip, for example, the retail savings app, and obviously with high interest rates, Chip have had amazing growth in relation to, if you like, again, one of the really important things, Treasury Select Committee and all of that, are banks actually returning interest back to consumers? Really highly topical. Well, Chip has been able to do that, the highest rate tables, 4 clicks essentially, and you can move money from your Lloyd's account to Chip, instant access, and actually put it back again and earn the interest that you should earn on your money, and teaching you how to financial education, literacy and savings and all of that. So our embedded banking partners, and we've got a number in the queue of moving to others in pensions and investment examples, and a number of others, we see that as a tremendous growth in relation to it. But of course, it's not just that, it's also technology. So we've got a lot of the tech partners where our clients, more mature clients essentially, are moving up, need to have a new core banking engine. We're actually growing the IT, getting their cost base right. And so we partner with some great tech companies all the way through to 10x and Thought Machine, but Mambu in particular for new banks, so really efficient core banking engine, coupled with ClearBank. All the new innovative banks in the UK, a large number of them are all on Mambu ClearBank as their platform for loans and deposits and then actually clearing. So we've developed a number of distribution channels with tech companies, with law firms advising new startups and getting banking licenses and EMIs, accounting firms, management consultants, all of those, essentially that whole network, in trying to enable those fintechs to actually start, grow, scale, essentially in relation to it. And we've been on some amazing journeys with a number of our customers where their growth is our growth, and so we're fueling them to be successful. And I think that's what I find so exciting and privileged, to be able to talk to a number of those CEOs. And because we don't compete for their customers, i.e. we stay in our space, then it builds a very trusting relationship where people can be open and share customer propositions and the rest. So very exciting.
Well, it's an exciting and it's a great sentiment there as well. I think finally, Charles, my last question to you is really, what's next? What should we look out for with ClearBank?
Well, amazingly enough, it won't surprise that a number of our customers are saying, Charles, we love the sterling proposition here. Where are you with euros, US dollars, the rest? Give me more currencies, etc. And we want the same ClearBank service and tech in other jurisdictions. And essentially, over the last 15 months, it's been my aim. We announced a large new investor last February with 175 million of funding, essentially. And obviously, you mentioned the UK bank now is profitable, generating organic capital. We've been working very hard, and I hope that in the next few months we're going to be able to announce that we've got our European banking license in the Netherlands. All the teams are in place. We're already testing with some of our clients through Target 2 and SEPA. And so Europe is the next one. And then, of course, we're passporting out of the Netherlands into France, Italy, Germany, Spain, a number of the others. So once that is up, which is imminent, We've done our 135 documents and 5,000 pages. Brings me back to the UK banking license to actually do that. Then next year is very much switching to the US, where we've got a go-to-market strategy in relation to acquiring a banking license, essentially in the US, to get the US dollar, euro, sterling. So there's the currency dimension. There's also the product dimension, where we're moving, doing a lot of work to build our capability on embedded banking for non-regulated customers, so large corporates. So those large retail brands, whether it's utilities or telecoms, that they can start offering embedded bank accounts to their customers, getting rid of friction, building more brand loyalty, and some exciting things there are coming through. And then, of course, we mentioned digital assets, and we're working with a number, MasterCard, a number of other parties in relation to their networks, in relation to tokenized deposits, stable coins, before, if you like, central bank digital currencies actually kick in.
Well, lots to look forward to there, and I think a very exciting time, Charles. So maybe we'll have you back on in a few months' time to talk about some of those updates too. But for now, I just want to say a huge thank you, Charles, for joining us, and a thank you to all of our listeners for being part of this conversation. Stay tuned for more exciting discussions on financial innovation with our Coffee with Innovate Finance every Friday. Bye, everyone, for now.